Hello and welcome to Book Nook. I'm Lynn Kessler with Read Aloud West Virginia. I'm really excited about today's show because with me today I have John Slicer, who is a resident of Charleston and also a magician, and he has brought his son Jack with him to read some books, and they're also going to do some magic for us.
I think so.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So tell me a little bit about yourself, about your background.
Well, I grew up in Charleston and became interested in magic as a kid. I remember my first show for my first grade class at Holtz Elementary from a little magic set that Mom and Dad had purchased for me. I really have vague memories of actually doing that show, and just never lost interest in the art, and made a profession out of it for 17 years during my 20s and 30s.
Wow. So what kind of books do you like? Like as a child, what were your favorite books to read?
Oh gosh, I think well, we had a house full of books. I mean, full of Dr. Seuss and the usual children's books. I don't really remember any one in particular that was a favorite, but I remember I enjoyed reading.
Yeah. Do you and Jack have favorites now that you read together?
We do read a lot. Jack, do you have any favorite books?
No.
No, but you like to be read too, right? And Jack's learning to read also. So
It's pretty exciting, isn't it?
I try to keep it varied for him, and we go to the library and pick out new ones all the time.
That's a wonderful place. My kids love the library. So how did books and magic go together for you?
Well, there was I also have a very vivid memory of finding an old magic book in the back of my closet when I was probably in the 9th grade, and that's what really sort of re-sparked my interest in magic. And from there, everything I learned was from books, as far as magic.
Yeah, I love the way books can lead into a lifelong passion.
Yes.
Well, so you're going to do a magic trick for us today?
Indeed.
And Jack's going to help?
Possibly so. Possibly so. I thought I'd keep it simple this time with maybe a little card magic.
Okay.
Show the camera. They brought the Jumbo Index pack of playing cards, all different.
Okay.
And Lynn, I'd simply like you to select a card. I'll just steal them off the pack. Anytime you say stop, I'll stop, and you can have a selection of one.
Stop.
Right there. That's it? No more? All right.
That's it.
So take a peek at the card. Make sure that neither Jack nor I can see it.
Okay.
Get a glimpse of it and put it in your mind's eye, because actually Jack has been working on his mind reading magic skills lately.
Okay.
And so Lynn, if you will just look Jack in the eyes, and Jack, you look Lynn in the eyes, and just try to relax. Lynn, you focus on your card and just think of it, and Jack's going to try to see if he can pick up maybe the color, maybe the suit, maybe the number. We'll see. Sometimes it's a little bit of the card, sometimes it's more. Take your time. Go ahead.
6 of diamonds.
What is it? Oh, Jack of hearts. That's all right. That's all right. It's wait, hang on to that card. Hang on to that card.
Okay.
Let's try something different.
Okay.
Try something different. Jack has also been working on his animation skills. Actually, take that if you would. Let me straighten these back out. They got a little mixed up. All right. All right. And actually take the cards and check them out for a moment. Just make sure they are what they appear to be. And I'll place the box here as well.
Okay.
A lot of people think there's something strange with the box on this next trick, so I want you to look at that as well.
Okay.
I'll take those back.
You want me to keep the...
Actually, if you would, place the card right back in the center, about right. Well, here, I'll get it in there. About right. That's pretty much the middle.
That's, yep.
Okay.
That's good.
Put it back in there. Check out the box. Make sure there's nothing fishy or suspicious there. All right.
Yep. Looks normal.
Cards go back in the box.
Okay.
All right. Jack, I want you to raise up one hand like this. Remember, point your fingers at the box and give a little wiggle. And focus on Lynn's, what was it, a Jack of Hearts, right? Jack of Hearts. Focus on a Jack of Hearts. And keep going. Don't stop. There we go. Check it out. Check it out. One card. Right there, Jack. Not too far. We don't want it to fall. Go ahead, Lynn. Pull that out. Is that in the... Show that to the camera. Yep. Jack of Hearts.
It's a Jack of Hearts.
Just like that. Not bad. Huh? You've been working on that one for a while, yes?
That was pretty good. I'm impressed.
Not bad for a 6-year-old, huh? Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. That
You're
was
welcome.
great. That
You're
was
welcome.
great, Jack. Good job. So now that we've done magic, I think we'll read some books. What book are you going to read for us first today?
The first book I'm going to read is titled, Where Did Daddy's Hair Go? Yeah, I don't know why I would have picked such a book, but I did. No. And it's written by Joe O'Connor, and interestingly, it's illustrated by Henry Payne, who is a Charleston native. He lives in Michigan now, but I just noticed that the other day. Illustrated by a Charleston native, Henry Payne. Jeremiah Jensen was very excited. It was a bright, sunny day at the ballpark, and he was at his first big league baseball game with his daddy. Jeremiah had never seen so many people in one place. Jeremiah's dad was also feeling good. He was with his son, enjoying the smells of the ballpark and watching his favorite team, just as he had done so many times with his own father, Jeremiah's grandpa. The score was tied 0-0 when suddenly there was the crack of a bat and the home team players hit a home run. Jeremiah's dad jumped up from his seat and cheered loudly for his team. Just then, a large man seated behind them yelled, "Hey, Baldy, sit down!" Jeremiah was startled and a little worried. But with a smile, his dad turned to the man and said, "How did you know my name?" The large man smiled back. Later, as they were driving home from the game, Jeremiah thought again about the large man. "Daddy, why did that man call you Baldy?" His dad smiled. "Because people who don't have much hair on their heads are considered bald," he explained. Jeremiah thought about this. Then he wondered what he might look like without hair. The next day, Jeremiah was sitting at the kitchen table with his dad. His dad was on the phone. Jeremiah wasn't paying much attention to what his father was saying, but he did hear one thing. "Ever since I lost my hair..." Jeremiah didn't catch the rest of the sentence. He was thinking too hard about the first part. "Daddy lost his hair," Jeremiah thought. "So that's what this is all about." A smile crept across his face. "Well then, I'm going to find it. That will make Daddy very happy." He scooted off his seat and left the kitchen. The search for Daddy's hair had begun. Jeremiah started in the house. He looked in closets, cupboards, and drawers. He looked in the bathtub. He looked in the garage. He even looked in the toilet. Nothing. Venturing outside, Jeremiah continued his hunt for Daddy's hair. He looked in sewers, in trash cans, and under rocks. He looked in his front yard and the backyard, even in the garden. Still nothing. He headed back to the house, discouraged. Where did Daddy's hair go? Where would hair go? And then Jeremiah had an idea. I wonder if other things lose their hair like Daddy did. Jeremiah thought of the other things that looked like Daddy's head. A pencil eraser, a hill with no grass on top, a camel's hump, a turtle, even a pig. Well, maybe the pig and the camel's hump had a little fuzz, but there wasn't a lot of it. But none of these things really lost their hair, Jeremiah thought. Some of them didn't even have hair to begin with. He sighed and went to the den. His baby sister, Rosemary, was playing in the crib. Then it hit him. Rosemary had a smooth, shiny head, almost like Daddy's. Maybe he was just born like that, Jeremiah thought. Jeremiah found his father in the backyard. Dad, were you just born like that, with no hair? Many people are born nearly bald, replied his dad. Even you. Yikes! Jeremiah felt his head to make sure his hair was still there. Well, then that's it. No, no. You see, I did eventually grow hair, but as I got older, my hair fell out little by little, Jeremiah's dad explained. Jeremiah thought about what his father had said. He tried to picture what his dad would look like with hair. Would Daddy be a different person with hair? Jeremiah wondered. Did it hurt when your hair came out? Jeremiah asked. No. Did it bleed? No. Did you cry? No, said his dad. I was a little upset, but I realized having hair doesn't matter. It's who you are on the outside that really counts. The next day, Jeremiah and his family went to the beach. Jeremiah looked all around at the people. They were all different shapes and sizes and colors. Some were small, tall, some skinny, some fat. There were even different kinds of bald heads. Some looked like donuts, others like horseshoes. Some were completely bald like the man in the moon. Jeremiah looked over at his dad. The sun was bouncing off his shiny head, and Jeremiah smiled. Daddy, he said. Yes, Jeremiah. I don't need to look for your hair anymore. I think you're perfect, just the way you are. Did you like that? Will you help me find my hair when we get home?
No.
The next book I brought is The Great Pancake Escape by Paul Meny, illustrated by Scott Gatto. Our dad is a magician who can make a bird go poof. But the day he cooked us pancakes, he made an awful goof. He juggled milk and flour, then made an egg appear, and pulled a stick of butter from behind Louisa's ear. We'd seen this act 1,000 times, but we really should have looked, 'cause when he mixed the batter up, he was using the wrong book. The bowl spun round and went kablam! Dad's glasses took off flying. The batter leaped into the pan and hissed while it was frying. The stove belched smoke and fire. The pancakes leaped and hopped. We dove beneath the tabletop and shouted, "Watch out, Pop!" The cakes turned somersaults and flips. We caught them on our dishes, where they squirmed and flopped and wriggled, as if they were live fishes. We had no chance to stop them, as they leaped up on their edges, skittered quickly out the door, and rolled right past the hedges. We couldn't cry out, "Murder!" Yelling "Fire!" would be rash, so we loudly bellowed, "Pancakes!" then took off at a dash. They shot on down the driveway, where they spun round the cats. Flying through the mailman's legs, they flipped like acrobats. We chased them way on down the block, where they popped into high gear, then screeched around the corner and simply disappeared. "Where did they go?" cried little Ned. Louisa had teary eyes. "Now don't be sad," I told them both. "We'll catch those sneaky guys." We left no rock or stone unturned. Where they'd hid, we couldn't dream. It was then we started noticing things were not what they seemed. The tires on that taxi cab, they didn't look quite real. The driver of the city bus was chomping on the wheel. The traffic signal turned to tan, and then we crossed the street. The big round manhole covers felt all squishy to our feet. A highfalutin lady strolled into our view in a funny hat that looked good enough to chew. A frisky beagle in the park ate a frisbee meal. Kids rolled on bumpy skates, and cyclists on brown wheels. "There's something fishy going on," I told the other guys, and then I saw a fleeting flash. Our flapjacks flipped on by. We hightailed quickly after them as our cakes began to flee. They tore across the meadow, and we ran them up a tree. But then a robin swooped on down and grabbed a batterfly, and all the rest of them took wing and flew off in the sky. We chased them down a slippery slope, through crowds of daffodillies, and hopped across a murky pond on bouncy pads of lilies. We pooped out on the fountain's rim, just as some thunder pealed. I said, "There goes our breakfast. Now we'll have to eat oatmeal." And then, as we set out for home, fat clouds, the hue of batter, let loose a syrup rainstorm on umbrellas flat as platters. "Please help me find my specs," said Dad, when we stumbled in the door. But we found his old cookbook instead. It had tumbled to the floor. "This is a book of tricks," we said. "You see, it's not for grub." So we found a backward spell to chant, to reverse Dad's breakfast flub. We all hollered, "Udu Kekto!" Then we heard a mighty roar. An avalanche of cakes rolled down and blasted through the door. But our backward spell worked all too well, and our flapjacks turned to goo. We licked our hands and fingertips, but Dad said, "I'm not through. I'll fry you up another stack." But we said, "No, just watch." Then we toasted frozen waffles right from the soggy box. Quite the adventure, huh?
Yeah.
I think they were a little tired of Dad's magic, and they just wanted food. That's why they made the waffles. Just pop them in the toaster.
Yeah.
The third book I brought today is one of my favorites. It's called Zathura, from one of my favorite authors, Chris Van Allsburg. "Mom!" Danny Budwing yelled. "Mom!" Walter and Danny's mother stopped at her son's bedroom door. "Walter," she said, "get off your brother. Honestly, if you don't stop pulling on his nose like that, it'll end up looking like an elephant's trunk." "Oh, yeah?" said Walter. "Then he'll need the ears to match." He let go of Danny's nose and grabbed his ears. "Enough!" Mrs. Budwing shouted. "Danny started it. Look what he did," Walter yelled, picking up his walkie-talkie. The antenna was dangling by a wire. "See? He breaks everything." "I'm sure he didn't mean to," Mrs. Budwing said. "It was an accident," Danny mumbled. From downstairs, Mr. Budwing called to his wife, "We're going to be late!" Mrs. Budwing gave her sons a kiss goodbye. "I set some dinner out in the kitchen. Dad and I shouldn't be too late." "Can't you take him with you?" Walter whined. After their parents left, Walter sat down in front of the television. "Can me and you go out and play catch together?" Danny asked. "It's you and I," said Walter, "not me and you. And the answer is no." Danny really wanted to play. He threw Walter his hat, but Walter just ignored him. Then he tossed him a baseball and beamed him on the head. Walter jumped up. "All right, you little fungus, now you're really going to get it." Danny bolted out the door, down the hall, and out the front door, with Walter close behind. They ran into the park across the street, but Danny couldn't outrun his brother. Walter tackled him. "I'm telling!" Danny squealed, as Walter got a grip on his nose and pulled. Then he let go. "Hey, what's that?" he said. Right next to the boys was a long, thin box resting against a tree. Walter got off his brother and picked it up. "Aw, it's just some dumb old game. Here," he said, poking Danny in the stomach with the box. "It's for babies like you." He trotted off as Danny read the words on the box. Jumanji, a jungle adventure. Danny stuck the game under his arm and ran home after his brother. Back inside, Danny looked at the box. It was covered with pictures of jungle animals. He took out the dice, some tokens, and a very plain game board. Walter was right. It was a babyish game and probably too boring, too. Danny started to put it away, but discovered, jammed tightly into the bottom of the box, another board. He banged the box on the floor, and out it popped. This board was more interesting. It showed flying saucers, rockets, and planets in outer space, with a path of colored squares leading from Earth to a purple planet called Zathura and back to Earth. Danny put a token on Earth, then rolled the dice. After he'd moved along the path, something surprising happened. A buzzing sound came from the board, and, with a click, a small green card popped out of the edge right in front of him. He picked it up and read, "Meteor showers. Take evasive action." "Hey, Walter," Danny started to say, "what does when he was interrupted by a noisy rat-a-tat-tat sound coming from the roof. Walter looked up from the television. "Holy smoke," he said. "Must be a hailstorm." "It's not hail," shouted Danny, holding up the card. "It's meteors!" The noise grew louder, like 1,000 golf balls bouncing off the roof. The room got so dark, Walter turned on the lights. Then, kaboom! A rock the size of a refrigerator fell through the ceiling and crushed the television. "See?" Danny said. "I told you, meteors!" Walter stared at the hole in the ceiling. "Okay, meteors. But how'd it get so dark so fast?" Through the hole, he could see what was left of his parents' bedroom, and beyond that, a black, star-filled sky. "It looks like night up there." "It's not night," said Danny. "It's outer space." "What are you talking about? Outer space?" Walter muttered as he went to the front door. "We just lost track of time. It's night, that's all." He threw open the door and almost took a step outside before he realized there was no outside anymore. At least, not the one he expected. "See?" said Danny. "Outer space!" He led Walter back to the living room and showed him the Zathura game board and the card. Walter sat with his head in his hands, gazing at the path of colored squares that wound round the board and ended back at Earth. "Looks like," said Danny, "we keep on playing or we're up here forever." "Great," said Walter. "Up here with you forever?" He took a deep breath, put a token on Earth, then rolled the dice and moved along the path. The board started buzzing and, click, a card popped out. He studied it silently, then tossed the card on the board. Danny leaned forward and read, "The polarity on your gravity belt is reversed. I wonder what that means." He looked up, but Walter was gone. "Walter!" he called out. "Up here," he answered. Danny looked up and saw his brother pressed against the ceiling. "I've lost my gravity!" "That's not all you're going to lose," Danny said nervously, because he could see that Walter was being pulled slowly toward the hole in the ceiling and a lonely trip into outer space. Walter realized it too and started clawing at the ceiling, but he couldn't keep himself from moving closer and closer to the hole. Danny looked around. Lying next to the meteor was the cord from the television. He tossed it to Walter, who knotted it tightly to his belt. Danny grabbed the other end of the cord and tied it to the sofa. Danny rolled the dice and moved his token along the path. Click! Out popped another card. "Your gyroscope is malfunctioning." Suddenly, the house tilted. Everything in the room slid to one side, and Danny got buried under a mountain of furniture. He slowly dug himself out, clutching the game, only to find that Walter was floating back toward the hole in the ceiling. Danny tied him to the sofa again and handed up the dice. Walter rolled and got his gravity back, dropping to the floor with a thud. Danny moved his piece and handed him his card. "Your robot is defective." From the hallway came the sound of rattling metal and a steady clank, clank, clank. The boys stared at the doorway as a shiny silver robot stepped into view. He was having trouble walking on the tilted floor. His head rotated back and forth and seemed to freeze on Walter. The robot's eyes lit up, and he spoke in an odd mechanical voice. "Emergency, emergency, alien life form must destroy." His claw-like metal hand snapped open and shut. "Uh-oh," Danny whispered. "I think he's talking about you." Fortunately, when the robot stepped forward, he missed the door, banged into the wall, and fell to the floor. He got up and did it again, and then again. "Better hurry up and roll," said Walter, "before he makes it in here." Danny rolled the dice and took his card. "You passed too close to Saurus 3. Gravity greatly increased." The room began to level out, but something strange was happening to Danny. Walter looked at him. "Holy smoke!" he said. Danny was getting shorter and wider, too. Soon he was about the shape and size of a large beach ball. "Walter," he said in a low voice, "I feel very heavy." "Destroy alien life forms," the robot repeated from the hall as he picked himself up again. This time he made it through the door and headed for Walter. Danny yelled to his brother, "Push me! Just push me!" Walter bent down and gave his brother a shove. Danny rolled across the room like a giant bowling ball, knocked the robot over, and flattened his legs. "Did I get him?" asked Danny, who couldn't see because he'd rolled up against the wall and was upside down. Walter pushed him back to the game board. "Sure you did," he said, patting his brother's head. "You were terrific." Walter picked up the dice and rolled. He took his card, and his hand trembled as he read, "Zorgon pirate ship launches photon attack." Through the window, the boys saw a spaceship. 2 points of light shot from the ship and headed directly for the Budwing house. The first one hit the chimney and sent bricks falling into the fireplace. The second hit the upstairs bathroom. Water began dripping down from the hole in the ceiling. Walter handed the dice to Danny, who had a hard time lifting his short, heavy arm. He rolled, and as Walter moved his token for him, he slowly returned to normal shape. A card popped out. Danny read it silently. "This is bad. Zorgon pirate boards your vessel." Well, that's all the time we have today. You'll have to pick up a copy of Zathura at the bookstore or at the library to find out what happens to Danny and Walter. It's a pretty exciting ending. Did you enjoy those stories, Jack?
Yes.
Great. Well, we'll see you next time on Book Nook. Thanks for joining us.